So, in chronological order then, my favourite William Hartnell stories are the first two Dalek serials, The Dead Planet, aka The Daleks, and The Dalek Invasion of Earth, broadcast in 1963 and 1964 respectively, and both written by Terry Nation. Superior to the feature film versions made a couple of years later, they are rarely equalled as Dalek stories and also manage to contrast each other in almost every respect. The original Dalek serial of 7 episodes was only the second adventure for the Doctor and Co. and ensured that Doctor Who, a show only originally commissioned for 18 episodes, would run and run. It takes you back to an era when Who inhabited a large universe and Skaro, the first alien world we see, is murky and mysterious. One of the first truly iconic cliffhangers in the show's history has to be the end of Part 1. A POV shot advances on Barbara with only a Dalek arm in view, and then it would be a whole week before audiences saw their first Daleks. It transpires that Skaro suffered a nuclear war centuries earlier, and that while the Thals, who live off the land, have mutated full circle to be humanoid again, the Dals, or Daleks, who live in protective machines in their city, are disgusting mutations. The Thals want peace. The Daleks disagree. The Dalek invasion of Earth would be better described as the Dalek occupation of Earth, since come 2164 they have already ruled for some time and are digging for the Earth's magnetic core with the aid of human slaves, some under mind control. With some breathtaking location work, this has the feel of a World War II movie and is fundamentally about courage and the triumph of the human spirit against adversity, and is a seminal piece of Doctor Who. In the previous Dalek serial, Hartnell's Doctor was still very much the anti-hero, even deceiving his own companions to get his way. Here he has softened in the past year to become more like the hero modern fans expect. Doubtless today's hooligans, fans of the new series, would complain of these serials being rather slow. Personally, I find they have a magical ability to make you forget what you already know and relive the mystery and suspense afresh each time. And a true Whovian cannot help but get emotional about the original TARDIS crew, Hartnell accompanied by Ian, William Russell, Barbara, Jacqueline Hill, and the Doctor's granddaughter Susan, Carol Ann Ford, who departs at the end of the Dalek invasion of Earth to marry a farmer called David. "One day," says the Doctor, "I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back. Until then there must be no regrets, no tears, no anxieties. Just go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine." A controversial choice for Patrick Troughton, I have nonetheless opted for The Mind Robber. Silly though parts of it are. Mind Robber takes us outside reality, where fictional characters, most notably Gulliver, come to life and there are life-size clockwork robots. An interesting thing about Gulliver is that he only uses or understands words Jonathan Swift gave him, and cannot see things beyond his understanding. He thinks the robots are yahoos, primitives he encounters in the original story of his travels. They also encounter mythical beings such as the Minotaur and Medusa, the trick being to tell yourself they don't exist, thus making them disappear. The Doctor ultimately confronts the villain, a 1920s writer confusingly named The Master. I'm surprised villains don't have union rules about things like that. And they battle it out, telling stories which come true as they tell them, with the deadly trap that once you mention a real-life person in the story, they become fictional and can only do what you write for them. Mention yourself, you are lost for good. The confrontation includes a sword fight between D'Artagnan and Cyrano de Bergerac. Yes, I was tempted to go for something more grown-up, like Tomb of the Cybermen, or Troughton's suspenseful final serial, The War Games, but while they may be objectively better, I can't resist this one, because it's just so much fun. My choice for the third Doctor, Jon Pertwee, is also perhaps not obvious. From his first season, broadcast in 1970, and the last to feature Caroline John as Liz Shaw, I nominate Inferno. The Doctor visits a digging operation in the English countryside, where an obsessed scientist called Professor Stallman is ignoring all warnings that what he's doing is dangerous, and people are turning into creatures called primords. The Doctor slips into an alternative reality where Great Britain is under fascist rule, and he meets authoritarian versions of the characters. In this reality, the digging is more advanced, and the world is inevitably doomed. Can the Doctor return in time to save our universe from the same fate? This may sound like a compendium of sci-fi cliches, but it is all done so well, brilliantly paced and with a great cast including Jon Pertwee, Nicholas Courtney as the Brigadier and Caroline John, all sadly no longer with us. My early Tom Baker choice is Genesis of the Daleks 1974, which introduces Davros, played by Michael Wisher, and right-hand man Nyder, played by Peter Miles. Terry Nation returns to write Daleks and shows us the nuclear war that ravaged Skaro. Reasoning that there is no way out of the war and that everybody will just mutate anyway, Davros advances the mutation to what it will eventually be, but also removes any hint of love or compassion, leaving what would go on to be called a Dalek, a lump of pure hate, placing it in a war machine. He also double-crosses his own people, so that they are all but wiped out, leaving nothing but the scientific elite, the Daleks, and of course the Doctor and companions who were sent by the Time Lords to prevent the Daleks' creation. Another atmospheric classic, and often regarded the best Doctor Who story of all time, Genesis probably contains more iconic moments than any other, most notably Davros contemplating the virus to destroy all life in the universe, and the Doctor debating the ethics of wiping out a whole race because of the evil they'll one day commit. This also features the most popular classic series companion, Liz Sladen, as Sarah Jane, who encountered Davros more recently in The Stolen Earth. She passed away last year and will be sorely missed. For late Tom Baker, there is no contest. City of Death, written by none other than Douglas Adams, is a brilliant story, the first foreign location shoot in the show's history, and had the highest views of any classic serial. Scaroth, last of the Jaggeroth, blows up his ship in prehistoric Earth, and various incarnations of him are spread throughout history, so he attempts to advance humanity to the point where his most recent self, in 1979, can develop time travel, so as to go back and stop himself pressing the button. All this ties in with a plot to steal the Mona Lisa, well, one Mona Lisa. He already has 7, all of them authentic. Unfortunately, the explosion of his ship near the primordial soup was the source of radiation that enabled abiogenesis, so the Jaggeroth must die for anything on Earth to live. The part of Scaroth, aka Count Scarlioni, is played by Julian Glover, the only actor to be a Who villain, a Bond villain, a Star Wars villain, and an Indiana Jones villain. That's a lot of villainy. The brilliant use of Paris as a locale, the chemistry between the Doctor and Romana, Tom Baker and Lalla Ward were already engaged by that time, the joy of Adams writing for Baker, Glover as the Count, and the strength of the story itself all make this one of my all-time favourite stories. Another fan favourite, next up, is the 5th Doctor's swan song, The Caves of Androzani, 1981. The universe is crying out for Spectrux, the most sought-after commodity since it slows the aging process and prolongs life. Unfortunately, it is mined on Androzani Minor, and the supply is controlled by a terrorist called Sharaz Jek, a disfigured genius with an army of androids in the caverns beneath the planet. Left with severe burns after being betrayed by the corrupt and ruthless Morgus, a man so evil he even talks to the audience Richard III style, Jek becomes Phantom of the Opera to Perry's Christine Daae. Actor Christopher Gable recognised the basis for the character immediately, and makes an excellent Phantom. Every mannerism and intonation screams tortured. One of the darkest and most uncompromising stories in Who history, and with a clever script by Robert Holmes, a spine-chilling soundtrack by Roger Lim, and great performances throughout, including Peter Davison playing the Doctor better than ever before, it's no wonder a recent poll saw it at the very top, even coming above Genesis of the Daleks and Blink. Androzani ends with the Doctor's sacrifice for Perry and regeneration into his 6th incarnation, for whom I have selected Vengeance on Varos, a piece of social comment on violence in the media, the most Orwellian Doctor Who, and a prediction of reality TV with a sinister twist. Despite a wealth of the much-needed mineral Zyton-7, Verosians live in poverty, distracted only by watching the endless torture of rebels on television. The governor of the planet has to take his proposals to the people, who vote via their televisions. The more no's he receives, the more pain is inflicted on him. Enough no's and he is killed. Governors do not last long. Seal, a character who'd be a Ferengi if this was Star Trek, has been lying to the governor of Varos, played by Martin Jarvis, about the value of Zyton ore. The Doctor and Perry, played by Nicola Bryant, land inside the Punishment Dome, where they are subjected to monsters, cannibals, and hallucinations, including the Doctor being made to think he is dying of thirst, the idea being the body will obey the mind, and this is viewed by the entire population of Varos, leading to the unforgettable line, "And cut it now." Cue laughter. Vengeance on Varos also features a rare instance of the Doctor killing someone, when a fight with 2 morgue attendants leads to them both falling into an acid bath, to which the Doctor simply says, "You'll forgive me if I don't join you." The series was suspended for 18 months. It was a very troubled era for the show, and ultimately Colin Baker was made into the fall guy. He is the only Doctor to have been fired from the role, and how he was treated makes me angry to this day. Ghostlight, 1989, sees 7th Doctor Sylvester McCoy and Ace, played by Sophie Aldred, land in Gabriel Chase, a seemingly haunted house in the 1880s, home to evolutionary biologist Josiah Smith, who is in fact a reptilian who adapts by becoming the dominant species of whatever world he's on. Also aboard the ship in his cellar are Light, a being that wants to catalogue everything in the universe and hates that things change too fast for him to keep up with, God love OCD supervillains, Control, who isn't meant to leave the ship, but eventually evolves into a Victorian lady, and the discarded husks of Josiah, which move as if still alive. This is a difficult story to follow, being trimmed from 4 parts to 3, but I like it for the atmosphere, the colourful Victorian characters, and the message about personal growth and adapting when difficulties leave you stronger, in short, a positive evolution metaphor. By this time, the viewing figures had declined, but the reviews were the best they'd ever been. Ghostlight was the final classic Who serial to be shot, as just as Doctor Who was picking up with a lot of good 7th Doctor stories, the decision was made to axe the show.